I always try to like broaden someone's horizons.
Right.
But I am such a fucking elitist. Like, I'm so sorry. I had a long discussion with a friend about this, and I know it's problematic, but if you tell me your favorite anime is Sword Art Online, Gurren Lagann, I'm like, that's your favorite? Out
Right.
of
All of them. No, it just
Like,
puts things in perspective. It really
okay.
does. It
And I'm
really
like,
does.
I know it's shitty. I know
Okay.
it is.
Alright, what up, you guys? I'm Bryson Smith.
And I'm Javin. And this is Etcetera. Yes! Woo!
I forgot my stick.
Champ. You forgot your stick.
Yeah, that's
It's over
kinda
there.
awkward.
It's
kinda
somewhere
awkward.
over there. Welcome back to another episode of Etcetera.
I have to grab my stick.
Yeah, he's gonna go. His hands all busy.
I need this at this point. It just feels awkward with that.
Any newcomers? Welcome. It's odd that this is your first episode, but if it is, we're here to talk about a bunch of random miscellaneous topics, usually relating to controversies or our feelings on modern media,
Right.
anime. Today's anime. Today's
Right.
going to be an anime one. And specifically, anime elitism, the scourge that it is. What do we feel about it?
How would you describe that? How would you describe anime?
Dude,
elitism?
honestly,
Seven?
that's pretty difficult. I would say it's any point when you are a fan of anime
Right.
that you feel superior to other fans because of what your relationship with anime is
Right.
compared to theirs.
Which is very common in the
It's-
anime community. You feel it too.
We
when
all
you, when,
feel
yeah, when
it,
you
yeah.
when you speak to certain people. Even when I go to Frankensons, which is this anime convention, when you talk to certain people that have watched so much anime and you try to talk about one particular anime, and if for whatever reason they feel like their choices are in anime is better than yours, they feel like they're above you. It's really weird.
Literally.
Yeah.
But at the same exact time, if you tell me a certain anime is your favorite and I know in my heart that it's garbage, I
Yeah.
will change my opinion about you.
And
It
I always
will
wait. What were you gonna
affect
say? Were you gonna say, Marissa? No, say it.
I was just gonna let you guys finish because I want to talk about my experience with anime elitism.
All right.
So what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was
what you
gonna
have
I
to
was
say.
gonna bring up what I said the other day about when I was like, yeah, with JoJo's okay. So when someone says their favorite anime is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I automatically don't want to engage in the conversation. Like when I hear
Wow.
that that's your favorite anime of all time, because I've seen like there's way better anime than that.
There is.
And then they'll ask like, have you seen it?
It
And
is
it's like
good, though.
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but it's not my style
It isn't.
at all. And so yeah, it could be that, but I just can no longer engage in that conversation. Cause my favorite anime of all time, I always go to Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. I just
so
think
good.
it's great. So it's like if I compare that to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I'm just like, there's no comparison. So yeah.
What's your experience, Marissa? I want to hear. Or Scott. I don't.
Okay.
Whatever. We know
I've
hers.
actually-
Doesn't matter.
I've been called an anime elitist, and
You
a
are.
gatekeeper,
FYI, she is.
and yeah, I am.
Okay, we're listening. We're listening.
Okay, so I was one of the people who grew up watching anime. That was my privilege. I do my very best to say nothing of people who have only ever seen the big three: One Piece, Naruto,
Right.
Dragon Ball Z. Those are their favorites.
Right.
I try not to judge, and I don't portray that to them, but like because I've been watching anime since I was little, things like Rurouni Kenshin,
Classic.
Yu Yu
Love
Hakusho,
that one.
Cowboy Bebop, Fooly Cooly, Fullmetal Alchemist the original, Ghost in the Shell,
So good.
so many. Like there's so many things that I didn't even know the names of until recently. Like
Right.
I have a strong relationship with anime, and as of right now, like anime is trending. It's trendy. It's been trendy for the last couple of years. So my experience with anime elitism and gatekeeping are when I and it's always a good thing when people come into this thing that
Right.
I've loved for so long. But I knew this. I guess the best example is this one person that I knew. I'm not going to name his name, but he's seen so many anime, and I asked him his opinions on these anime or his favorites, and his favorite is Dragon Ball Z. And then I asked him the opinions of the animes that he's seen that I have also seen, and they're very substanceless opinions. Like there's no substance. There's
Shallow.
There's
Yeah.
shallow opinions
Right.
of these things that I've seen, and I'm like, are you even watching the same fucking show? Are you even trying to pay attention? Like I get slightly irritated, or when someone sees my anime shirt and they're like, oh my god, hey, I love that anime, and I'm like, oh great, what was your favorite part? And they're like,
Oh,
I don't know, I just liked it. And I'm
that's actually a really good example of
Oh,
what I
okay.
consider to be non-problematic elitism,
Huh.
where you ask, oh, what was your favorite part of the anime? And they give you an answer that tells you everything you need to know about them, period. It's not, oh, the character dynamics and the philosophy of the anime are actually
Right.
really intricate, blah, 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 blah. They're like, oh, dude, this one fight was so cool. I'm like,
Oh,
oh yeah, but
yeah.
what's your favorite part of the anime? And they're like, yeah, just like the swords. They're so
Yeah,
cool.
I
I'm
have.
like,
Yeah.
You're
When people like, okay, whenever someone tries to convince me to watch One Piece, they'll show me a crazy fight that I always see, and it just does not. There's no history or background to it, so I'm just watching this fight with what does Luffy turn into, like his huge fist or whatever. I'm like, okay, like I'm not intrigued by this at all.
oh no.
There's no
yeah.
emotional weight.
There's no emotion,
Because
and that's what it is. There's no
I
emotional
know
weight
that
to it.
moment. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I know that moment,
Yeah.
and that is genuinely one of the most badass moments
Yeah,
of the show.
but I
That's
feel
so
like
funny.
it needs
Context.
yeah,
It needs
and they just show
context.
me that with no context, and I'm like not interested at all.
No, I can
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so weird. Because in hindsight, I'm like, damn, you're right. If I just looked at that, no
Yeah.
context, I'd be like, yeah, sure.
But you
That-
probably
Why not?
watched the show to some
I-
degree, to
I
where you
re-
know what's going on with that.
I read the manga, and that moment, I was like, holy shit. Game changer, everything. But if you're just looking at it, you're like, yeah, his arms.
Like, bro, that fight- and it
yeah,
has,
that's a
like-
pretty big arm.
And it has
Yeah.
like millions of views too. I'm like, I don't
so
get it.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I think that anime elitism is not a good thing, right? I don't think gatekeeping's a good thing. I think gatekeeping specifically though, which is when like it's like you're protecting something that you cherish. So like the culture of anime that I grew up in, it's like I'm fighting off newcomers or people that only watch like Naruto and Dragon Ball Z
Right.
because I don't think that they like this thing as much as I like this thing, and that's very toxic. That's very toxic. I do not gatekeep. I'm
Right.
always like, oh, you've only ever seen Naruto? Okay, well, maybe you'll like this one anime called Fooly Cooly. It's only 5 episodes, 6 episodes, you know? Or hey, maybe you should try this anime called Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It's known as one of the best anime, personally my favorite. I always try to like broaden someone's horizons.
Right.
But I am such a fucking elitist. Like, I'm so sorry. I had a long discussion with a friend about this, and I know it's problematic, but if you tell me your favorite anime is Sword Art Online, Gurren Lagann, I'm like, that's your favorite? Out
Right.
of
All of them.
Yo, it just
Like,
puts things in perspective. It really
okay.
does. It
And I'm
really
like-
does.
I know it's shitty. I know
Okay.
it is.
Okay, so here's where I think anime elitism can become pretty problematic.
Huh.
Is when you don't ask the why. If you say, hey, Full Metal Alchemist is my favorite anime, you're like, hell yeah, because it's amazing. You're like, of course it is. Of
Right,
course it is.
right.
And you ask their reason, and they say it's because Pride's shadow form is pretty badass.
Oh no.
And
No.
Greed, he's like, I just like Greed's like way of thinking. Like, I don't want to be like him. You'd be like, oh, so you're not like a real fan then. But then you go to somebody else and they're like, oh, my favorite anime is Sword Art Online or Gurren Lagann. This is actually an experience I had. My therapist said his favorite anime was Gurren Lagann, and I'm like, okay, you're providing me mental health services. That is something I have to really consider now.
That's funny.
But then he explained why, and he was just like, it's so stupid, and it's perfect in its stupidity. And I'm like, that's fair.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me, and I can see why that makes it your favorite. Like, it's a personal connection, not because he thinks it's genuinely like any objective quality, but because of
Right.
his personal relationship. And we all have movies like that or shows like that where it's
Yeah.
like, this is garbage. This is garbage,
Yeah.
but I love it because of the relationship I have. While with other people, if they're like, oh, I like Sword Art Online because like the swords are really fast. Genuine, real conversation I had with somebody because the swords are really cool. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
Sword Art Online, the swords are what got you, huh?
And
Yeah.
there's
Out of
more,
everything.
There's more to that show than just that.
That's what I'm saying. It is a good anime.
I quit watching it for different reasons. Like
Yeah.
it just lost me. I was like, I can't support this anymore.
Yeah. I actually have a really good friend of mine who made me rethink my anime elitism. His favorite anime was Sword Art Online. We had a conversation about it. And I was actually really salty about Sword Art Online in general as a show because I used to be a keyboard warrior, you know, back when Facebook was a thing. Anime pages on Facebook were really popping. And it was like anime community on the internet. It was really cool. So I was a keyboard warrior, you know, I got to defend my girl Sakura. And there were people comparing Sword Art Online to Attack on Titan. And I was like, what the fuck?
They were comparing Sword Art Online
They're
to
like,
Attack on
Sword Art
Titan?
Online is way better than Attack on Titan. And I'm like, y'all are on crack.
Yeah.
And they're
What?
like, yeah. And so
Are you serious?
Yes,
That is,
yes.
by the way, fans out there.
Kirito is better
that's
than
not true.
Eren Yeager. That was the argument. And
Okay, I can see that.
I
That's a
fought it.
different discussion.
Bro, I
That's
was
a different
watching.
discussion.
You guys ever
That's
watch
true.
the YouTuber Swag Kage?
Oh, you showed me him.
Yeah, so
I like
he
him.
I like him a lot too. But he did a video that was released like 2 years ago, but it popped up in my recommended. And it was some dude that was saying Kakuzu, and Kakuzu is the dude from the Akatsuki.
No, I remember him.
with the
yeah.
7 hearts.
Olive eyes.
He truly believed in his heart, and he was trying to defend it, that Kakuzu was stronger than Nagato or Pain, one of those two. And it was like, no,
No.
that's literally not. like, and then Swag Kage was literally proving him points from the manga and everything, and he was like, but he didn't go for it. He was like, no, Kakuzu is stronger than him. And it was just like so absurd. I was like, is this real? Like,
Yeah.
This is a
have
real
you not
person?
seen the show? Like, do you not understand the powers here?
And that's how I felt when I was like arguing for Sword Art Online against Attack on Titan.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
what do I have to do? You have to know that you can't break through to them, these people. You
Yeah.
can't.
yeah.
I
Okay,
like.
so
Go ahead.
real quick, I grew a bad relationship towards Sword Art Online. So when I talked to that close friend of mine whose favorite anime is Sword Art Online,
Right.
we had a discussion about it, and then months later, he never wanted to talk to me about anime again, and I was like, why? And he's like, well, it's just because these are the reasons why Sword Art Online are my favorite, and he told me. And it's very like emotional and personal.
Right.
And then he's like, so for you to just shit on that's kind of shitty. And I was like, yeah, that was kind of shitty,
Yeah.
huh? Like that's why, going back to what you said, it's always important to ask the why. Like
Right.
guilty pleasures are a thing.
Yeah,
you
we
know?
love them.
Yeah, I love a lot of shitty anime, but I don't try to compare them to masterpieces. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, that's fair.
And boy, I like how we came into this discussion saying, yeah, anime elitism is pretty bad, and then gave examples of why we fully endorse it.
Because
100%.
I think every anime fan who like watches a ton of anime has a part of them is an anime elitist, just a little bit. We all, like you said, we all have those things that we really love, and then when
Right.
you meet someone who's all like, "Oh yeah, I like that," and you're like, "Oh, why?" And they're like, "It looked pretty," and you're like,
It looks
sure
"My
did.
soul hurts."
Yeah, it looked pretty.
It
That's
looked
true.
really pretty. But what do you think about the characters? Don't you
What's
think
the
they're kind of cool?
worst is when they say a part that you hated about the anime, and they're like, "That's my favorite part," and you're like, "Please no, please don't believe
And then you
that."
try to explain things, and like they don't give a fuck. They don't
Yeah,
care.
they don't care.
They
Yeah,
don't
they-
care.
Which is the problem of anime elitism. You're only bashing on somebody's interest, like what they like, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. If you
cares,
start
yeah.
bashing on what they like, they're like, "Oh, so I just stopped talking to you."
Yeah, you're alienating people in the anime community, and that's never a good thing.
Don't alienate people in the anime community.
No, don't do it. Like I keep my elitism, like I try my because of that
Even though I do
situation
it.
with my friend.
We all
Yeah, we all do it. I try to keep it to myself. I try not to make faces. I just talk about it with my other anime elitist friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Amongst
You
ourselves. I don't
talk
put-
shit
yeah.
behind people's back,
Yeah, I
like
don't-
decent people.
Yeah, I don't put it out in the
Decent
community.
people.
I'm not like, oh, all you fake anime posers. All you do is like, I don't do none of that. That's toxic.
Right.
Because there are people who do that.
There are, and let's talk about them. So when we talk about anime elitists, yes, we all have that sense of elitism, but there are people who are like really rampant with it, and let's talk about them. The people who will go out of their way to make sure that you feel ashamed for
That's not
liking
cool.
something.
That's not cool.
It's
Yeah.
not cool. And more than
Why
that,
though? Why would I haven't experienced this, but Why would someone do that?
I don't. But what's common is like, well, who's your favorite character in Naruto? And you say Naruto. You get bashed on that. You get like, your favorite character is Naruto,
Is the main
not
character.
the background character in the second scene of the 15th episode of the 18th season. Pff, fucking pleb. And it's like, that's not fucking fair. He's the main fucking character. Get over yourself. But people, like, when you like the mainstream parts of a show that are really good, you're considered less than or less mature
Not
or less
cool.
complicated. And so let's talk about them. Like, what do we...
I don't know why. Like, Naruto's a dope-ass main character.
He's cool as hell.
Goku's a cool main character. Like, there are cool main characters, but there's also some not cool main characters. I would just say characters that I don't care for, at least.
Yeah. And there are other people who are like, this is my favorite character. And you're like,
Right.
why? But
No, sometimes
it's-
you do want to know why.
Yeah,
Like,
you
when
do
people
wanna know
say, I'm
why.
like, why is that your favorite character? You know?
Like, actually, you're a good example, Bryson. Your favorite character is Hanzo, right? Is his
Hanzo and
name Hanzo?
Kimimaru, yeah.
Hanzo, who is not a character that's very popular or even
Not
like
at all,
that
yeah.
commonly listed. Pretty minor character. And I'm like,
His shit is dope, though. I love
Why?
his whole arc and his story and how he was, his face mask and how he was the strongest person in the Hidden in the Rain and how the, originally Yaiko and, what are their names? So 3 Akatsuki members, how they had to approach him. That whole arc was really dope to me. He's a dope ass character.
he's cool. And I didn't recognize that at the time when you explained that to me. And I had to like kind of get over myself. I'm like, he's not that cool. But he is. He is actually that cool.
dope.
So I feel
He's
like...
the one who even named the legendary Sannin the legendary Sannin.
Yes, that's
He's the
true.
one who gave him that title.
Badass. And he was. And we find out when he's resurrected that he has like a poison sac inside of him that actually poisons him. That's why he has to wear the mask and
Yeah, it's
everything.
pretty dope.
He's cool. Point is, why do we bash on people who just like things? Like, just like things.
Yeah.
Like Naruto, like Midoriya,
Yeah.
like, Natsu from Fairy Tail. He's my favorite character. You're like, that, Marissa. That's what we're talking
I think
about.
of Derek
I didn't
because
do any- I
Derek
didn't say
literally,
anything.
my friend Derek literally likes the main character of every show. I just like the main one. Like, and I'm like, really? What? Like, I just do.
I just do. That's
very-
the worst
It's
explanation.
a very Derek thing to say too.
You know what I think elitists crave? There's a moment, right? So like I was at the gym the other day with my best friend, and like in the gym I see people in Naruto shirts, like Itachi on their shirt, Kakashi on their shirt, walking around, or
Right.
Dragon Ball Z shirts, and like that's cool. You know, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like I do love to see the anime community growing, but there's nothing like this moment where like I went to the store also with my best friend a couple months ago, and I pulled out I had a fruits basket backpack, and the cashier was like, oh my God, I love your backpack. And I was like, oh, thanks, awesome. And then I pull my wallet out, and it's a haiku wallet, and she's like, oh my God, I love your wallet. And I was like, me too. And she's like, I think we're like best friends now. And like it was a really, really, really cool moment when you have these things that you love in the anime community. Things that like, I guess a lot of people have seen Fruits Basket and a lot of people have seen haiku, but they're just not as popular as Naruto and Dragon Ball Z, not as mainstream.
not, yeah.
So when you meet people, and then when there's a moment when you have something super obscure,
Right.
like super obscure in anime that'll really, you barely know anybody who's ever seen that anime, and then somebody stops you and they're like, oh, I love that keychain of that from Katanagatari
Right.
or Bakumonogatari, and you're like, holy shit, I want to know you, I want to be friends with you, let's talk about it. Like I think that elitists kind of just like crave those moments.
They do.
and we don't get them
And
often.
I actually had a similar moment with me and my friend. We were out and about, and there was a cosplay convention going on near where we were, and there was a person walking around, and she was wearing an outfit. She was cosplaying as Chrome from Hitman Reborn, which is popular, but every single person I've met that likes anime has never seen or read Hitman Reborn. And she's there with her spear and all adorable. And we go up to her and we're like, that's a wonderful Chrome outfit. That's amazing. And she's just like, you are the first person who has known who I was. I've been here all day and nobody knows who I fucking am. And we're like, we know.
I've never heard of that.
You're
anime.
beautiful. It's amazing. A little rough at first, but you got to push through it. Genuinely one of the best ones I've ever seen. But point is, we do crave those moments. Anime people, nerds in general, crave those like niche moments where it's like, I know that thing. I like that thing. And you get to bond. But it also gives you a sense of superiority pretty easily.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I know Japanese, you don't, therefore I'm a better fan. Or
It's not even that.
That's ridiculous, right? It's like I can watch anime without the caption. I'm like, well,
Good for you.
we're both watching it.
And these are just different levels, though.
both
Like
watching it,
when
yeah.
someone's like, "Oh yeah, I like that show," and you're like, "Why?" and they're like, "I don't know, it's cool." It's literally the same thing as what you just said, and we're so guilty of
100%.
doing the same shit just at a low level, like lower level, like and it's.
To be fair, I feel that it's a little bit more justified because we're talking about the content of the anime and comparing our perspectives there, as opposed to things surrounding it. Like,
That's true.
knowing an esoteric anime doesn't make you a better anime watcher than me. But if I can work with me here.
I'm listening.
If I can appreciate more elements that I consider to be deeper and more substantial regarding the same anime, and the other person just isn't there, our enjoyment isn't unjustified. We can both enjoy it, and that's fine. I do feel that in some ways I have a better understanding of the anime and therefore enjoy it a little bit more thoroughly. And I'm better than them because of it.
I was just about to say, is there such thing as a better watcher anime?
Yes.
Like what?
There
Like
fucking
we're competing.
is. I swear to God.
We're competing in terms of like I watch anime better than you.
Have
Like,
you guys,
what? This sounds stupid. This sounds stupid.
I know, but like, okay, that was like actually a meme for like a long, like on the anime pages on Facebook. Like when someone says something about an anime, the common response is like, "Did you even watch it right?" Like, I don't think you watched it right. And like, but that's a thing. You can literally watch
That is so
something and just
interesting
let
to
it
me.
be complete surface level, or not even like let it, like it just goes over your. You've watched something before, right? Where you're like just not invested, so it just kind of everything just kind of goes over your head.
Yeah.
I think it's like that versus.
I've had a moment, this is somewhat of an aside, but I had a moment that I realized that I was that person where I was passively watching something and not really understanding the depth of it. I was watching with my brother. We were watching this movie, Moana, and we were both inebriated in certain senses. And
Tell him.
we were high. I wasn't high, but he was high as hell. And he was watching this movie and he's just like, at the end, he was like, wow, that was amazing. And I'm like, yeah, that was a really good movie. I really like the themes and stuff like that. And he's like, it's amazing that it represents a woman's sexuality. And I'm like, what?
What?
Excuse
Where
me?
did that come from?
And I thought he was just doing high talk. Like he was just high out of his mind. I'm like, okay, so you're seeing God and dragons. I get it. And then he explained it. And I'm like, holy fuck. It's about a woman's sexuality. Moana is about a woman's journey to self-discovery regarding sexuality, and he got it. He got it. And I'm like, where did you
He watched it better than
He
me.
watched it better than me. I'm like,
That's funny.
what?
Wait,
How did you
it's not
fucking
even that he
spot that?
I guess you could say that. I would say he understood it better than you, but I guess watched it better than you.
It's just a funny way to say it.
It's a funny way to say it. He watched it better than you.
He fucking, I was
Yeah.
so mad. The way he explained it wasn't the way a high person explains it. He explained it with a thesis. He had a beginning, middle, and end. It was fucking, it was extensive. I'm like, Jesus,
Very
I was
Jared-like.
not watching
Yes.
that movie.
Yes.
And he was, and that was the whole night. We were watching movies, and he was spitting out gold like that, and I'm like, I'm not watching these
Wow.
movies right.
Yeah.
What am I doing here?
Yeah,
I'm a
and I
pleb.
think when you watch anime, the thing with a lot of anime is they have a ton of rewatchability.
They do.
Right.
And like
Oh,
when
yeah, they
you
do.
rewatch anime, you you have you higher your chance to be able to understand it better,
Yeah.
see little things, and so your experience while watching it is better. And it takes an experienced anime watcher, I think, to be able to grasp that shit on the first go. Not all the time. Some things you have to watch a second time, but I think the more you watch anime, the more you could pick up on subtleties.
What were you saying?
I was gonna
Bryson?
say I always like going back to little like clips on YouTube from shows that I like. Just certain scenes or arcs out of the series, I'll go on YouTube and watch.
And I think that's maybe what it is. So this sense of superiority, I don't think is inherently bad, but it is kind of rooted in this sense of maybe instead of superiority, it should be in terms of maturity or investment.
Could be both.
It could be both.
Yeah.
So like you can tell when you're more invested in something than somebody else.
Right.
Usually, like 8 times out of 10, you can tell that you're more invested or you have more mature views regarding it. So some kid, right, who just started watching anime, who's just like, yeah, I like Naruto because he can do the Rasengan and that's the coolest jutsu.
That's cute.
It's not bad. It's like, it's fun. You enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for a lot of the same reasons, but you can tell that your ideas and relationship with the subject matter are a lot deeper and you put a lot more time.
Yeah, okay, I have a good example.
Go
of
for
that.
it.
My nephew's 9 years old and he's watching Naruto, and like I walked past him while he was watching TV and I'm looking at him and I'm looking at the TV and he's just watching it and he's like just into it, and then I look at the TV and there's like this really emotional scene and my eyes started tearing up and I was like, oh God, I gotta walk away. I had to like walk away because it was like I wasn't even watching it, but I got emotional because
You knew.
I was like, I'm all connected to that shit, you know? And then
That's
he's
right.
all 9 and he's like, why are you crying? And I'm like,
don't even
it's
worry
okay.
about
Are you
learn when
crying,
you're
Bryson?
older.
Yeah, awesome.
That's how I felt with my little cousins. We were watching I was showing them Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then we go to the episode with Iroh, and he's like helping people out, and then there's the end where he's like at the tree singing it. Tales of
I gotta watch that show.
I
watch
was
it.
about to cry. I was like distraught. I'm like, fuck, they got me again. And these kids are just like, oh, his son died. I'm like, you fucking psychopath.
Yeah.
Cry. Give
Yeah.
him respect.
So it's weird when an adult has that response. It's normal when it's kids, right? We're talking
Right.
about kids and their
Yeah.
response. But like when it's an adult who's watching it and they have the same responses like these 9-year-olds, then you're just like, maybe
Have
you
you
should watch
really
it again.
I gotta rewatch
Did you
Avatar.
watch it right?
I haven't watched it since I was a kid, so I don't.
Yeah,
even
that
remember.
Got
episode
to.
with Iroh, I can't even, like, literally the moment he's walking up to that tree, my
like-
face is already hot. I'm like, oh no.
It gets me every time. Every time it's so fucking devastating.
Even the Momo and Appa part of that, episode, that got me too.
Shit. That one was so good.
So we were talking about Avatar, but we forgot what we were talking about, so we're just gonna go
Move
past
on.
that. Yeah.
That's right. Anime elitism is a big, big problem. And the reason it's really obnoxious is, no, we were talking about the investment, right? People invest in what they love. And so knowing you're bonding over something that you both love, knowing that you've invested more time and have slightly more developed thoughts about those things gives you a sense of like, fuck yeah, I worked at this. I put the time in. I know
Yeah.
that. But at the same time, it causes problems when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. For example, when somebody likes Gurren Lagann, which isn't bad. It's not a bad anime. It's just not my cup of tea. But at the same time, it's like there are so many better animes out there. But when you don't take the time to understand why it's somebody's personal favorite, it's like maybe they have. Maybe they have put the time in. Maybe they have invested. Maybe they do have developed thoughts about it. And that's why they enjoy that in a different way than you do. Because you haven't put the time in to appreciate Gurren Lagann. You've just taken the time to appreciate that you don't like Gurren Lagann.
No, maybe you just really don't like it though.
Yeah,
It's just not
and
your
that's fair
cup of
too.
tea.
But that's the point. It's like, is there a right way to watch something? Yes. But is it right to infringe on other people's watching experience because you think that
Yeah.
you have a better way of thinking?
Yeah.
I don't know. No, probably,
It's
right?
not. It's not. It's not. It's not okay to push your thoughts and feelings onto other people about how you consume something that they deemed their favorite, unless
They're stupid.
they ask. Don't fucking ask me, because if you ask me for my opinion, I'm going to give it to you. But if you don't
Right.
ask me, then I just keep it to myself, because that's how it's normal for people to feel elitism in anime. People feel elitism in every facet of life. If you just know something more than other people, you have a sense of superiority, different levels of that. Like, that's super normal. You know, it all comes down to how you put that energy out into the universe? Are you going to be a condescending asshole? Are you going to be, what's the word, pretentious about it? Like, how are you going to deal with people who just don't have that same experience as you that you deem to be superior because you're more experienced, which is fair.
I think it can also go in the opposite direction. Oh, did you have something you wanted to say, Bryson?
No, I was just listening. Yeah.
I think it can go the other way where
Thank you.
it can be used as a defense mechanism because, for example, mainstream, right? When an anime you've loved for a very long time that's not popular all of a sudden becomes mainstream and you're like, you don't want all that time and investment you've had to be drowned out, to be lost and made invalid, even though a bunch of people, it's because it's good and you enjoyed it because it was good that a bunch of people started appreciating it and are spending a lot of time and investing and being like, this is genius because of these reasons. The only thing you have to hold on to is, yeah, well, I was here first.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing that happens a lot. Like, I don't. Oh, what?
I was gonna say, like, who cares as long as we're both here?
Yeah, you'd think, but like, if you've surrounded your identity around that,
yeah.
if go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, especially if it's popular or if it's dope, you'd want more people to know about it, right?
Yeah. But like, for example,
Usually.
like I've been like Avatar: The Last Airbender. I watched that shit when I was a kid, and right now, since it hit Netflix, it's like blowing up, and like. I know people who are like, oh, you know, fuck all these people. Like, they didn't watch it when it was on Nickelodeon. They didn't wait for that, you know, the finale, and they didn't, like, you know, and I'm like, but like,
Who cares?
this is where my elitism goes down, because I'm like, but now there's all this merch, which I thought, should I be salty about all this Avatar merch that's hitting Hot Topic and Spencer's?
Oh, no.
And then I'm like, no, because now I have more merch. The first time I got Avatar merch, I was fucking stoked because you couldn't find that shit anywhere, and now it's all over the place, and I'm really happy about it.
Honestly, I felt the same way with Boku no Hero Academia, where I read the manga, and I loved it. I loved it when it came out. I was just like, fuck, this is amazing. I was so happy. And then all of a sudden, when the anime came out, it exploded, and I had that same thought. I'm like, should I be salty about this? And then it was merchandising, the toys, the conversation. And I'm like, how could I be mad? This is sick. This is fucking
it's like
awesome.
that with music as well. You can have a certain artist you like that's underground and you like them, but then when they get more mainstream, you're like, I kind of don't like you that much anymore.
That
that's
happens.
savage.
It happens sometimes though.
Honestly, Boku no Hero Academia, it did happen because it got mainstream. There might be a million different reasons, but later on, it kind of downgraded in quality, and Naruto suffers from this. One Piece, in some ways, can suffer from this. That's a complicated one.
But you think
though.
so? You think Naruto downgraded in quality?
The ending was garbage, Bryson, and I will die on that opinion.
What ending do you like? Because I
look.
always hear you talking bad about endings. Is there ever an ending that you like?
Bryson coming after me.
No, I'm just curious. I just genuinely wanted to know. Is there any
Death Note? I actually enjoy. I know a bunch of people hate it and they want to fight me. I don't give a shit. It's good. There's Bakuman. Amazing ending in my opinion. There's Defense Devil, which is not an anime. It should be, and I'm going to start a riot because of it. That had an amazing ending. There's lots that have really solid endings, but it's never their fault. No, Bakuman's is a manga about writing a manga, and it has an anime.
Oh, you told me about that one.
It's amazing, genuinely amazing, made by the same creators as Death Note. And they actually talk about how it's not really the manga writer's fault. The studio or whatever, the publishing company, they'll force you to keep producing. They won't let you end it. And so Naruto, because it became so popular, he had to keep going to a certain point until they squeezed the money out of him. And now he's making Boruto. And there's just a lot of factors that go into it. So anime elitism can go the opposite direction, where it is like, oh, they kind of ruined my favorite thing. I really liked that.
That makes sense where some of the salt comes from. It does make sense where when things get really popular, they have a high probability of decreasing in quality, because that does happen often. Or for what, like you said, there could be a million reasons. But I was going to say, side note, I actually had a friend who I was talking to about Naruto. She said that she didn't like Naruto after a while because it turned into Dragon Ball Z. And I was like, what do you mean?
That can't even work.
And she's like, well, the power
Right.
scaling. They went from ninjas with jutsus to fighting gods.
Power
and I was
crawl.
like,
Yeah, that was the whole story.
but like,
okay.
doesn't that make it feel somewhat like Dragon Ball Z? I
Sure.
kind of got it. I was
Naruto
like,
doesn't feel like Dragon Ball Z to me. They're two completely different.
just the power scaling.
The power crawl is a problem in writing, but Naruto, while it mildly suffered from that towards the end, garbage ending. I feel was nuanced in that the techniques presented did root from techniques we previously understood.
Yes.
There was a progression that did make sense for what the world was. With Dragon Ball, it's like, we throw in this new monster, super powerful.
Yeah.
We throw in this new technique, not based off of anything you've fucking seen before.
Right.
Win.
Yeah.
Bam.
But in
Next.
Naruto, it's always been like literally the story is Kaguya had 2 kids, and Naruto and Sasuke happens to be a part of that bloodline.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, they are that strong.
Yeah, and Madara's power is like, oh my god, he's like
He was
god
also-
tier. It's like,
he was
but
also,
it's, yeah, it's still based off of Sharingan, Susanoo, Amaterasu's, Mangekyo, yeah, all that. Tsukiyomi is not Madara's, but it's still cool. So I get that, but at the same time, I think Scarlet Senpai is correct in that the power crawl came from it being mainstream and people being like, I want to see more, bigger stakes. And I can understand how a couple seemingly anime elitists are just like, I would rather have my niche. I'd rather have my little cult following and not have it be bombarded by popularity because it'll ruin it. So I see it as protective as well. I don't want these new people ruining the thing I like.
Gatekeeping.
That's where gatekeeping comes from. You're not
Yes.
good enough to like my anime.
It's such a fine line from being like understandable and acceptable to being completely problematic. I think there's a fine line.
Where would you say your line is, Bryson?
What? With being I don't consider myself an elite anything.
I would agree.
Yeah, I don't. I'm just like, I just listen. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Then I also, yeah.
Yeah, but where do you think the line is? Like, do you get that not wanting to people to like your thing because it'll like interfere with how it's experienced, or do you think we should just let people enjoy what they enjoy and
let people enjoy what they enjoy? Like, to each his own. You know, everyone's different. Everyone has a different style. So yeah, I don't. It's like I do it, but at the same time, it ain't even like serious. Like, back to the whole JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I'm just like, okay, that's what he likes. All right, that's cool.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah.
Tiny bit
Not-
of shade, just like,
It's like, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
you do you, I
I'll
guess.
see you around.
To be
That's,
fair,
Good one.
that's the attitude I get once I hear stuff like that.
I've gotten the opposite response though. Like I said, Devilman Crybaby is like one of my favorite
That one's
anime.
popular though.
It's good. It is popular, but then somebody who's like super into the mainstream shonen stuff, they'll look at a seinen like Devilman Crybaby and they'll be like, "Oh, you like that?"
Yeah, you fucking weirdo.
Yeah, you fucking.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that response is
though?
like, that's
Yeah.
a weird one. Why do you even like that? That's weird. Or Makaku City Actors will be like, that's
I still need
weird.
to watch that one.
So good. And I'm like, because you're not as good as I am. That's why you don't understand.
You sound like me. I love all this. Like, okay, so I was spitting out these opinions back when we first met, and I was like, they're judging me. I know I sound like an elitist. I accepted who I am. And then now I'm hearing both of you guys like feel like, oh, I do it.
It's
Everybody,
true.
because everybody feels that
some
way
of the
on
stuff
some
you be
level.
saying be out there though.
That's true.
I'd be like, what the hell is she talking about?
Sword Art Online is not a bad anime. First
Attack on
season.
Titan
Nothing
is not
past
even
that.
I don't
complete yet, and
think
you're saying
that-
it's a
I don't-
masterpiece. I still have to bring that up. I'm like,
It is.
let the show
It is.
finish.
Look,
It's not
we thought
even
about this.
complete.
I know. But
We even
you
looked
went-
up the definition of a masterpiece. It's literally whatever you
Look,
deem it to be.
all
for the
I'm
most
saying is, I think objectively it's a masterpiece. All I'm saying is that Bryson went from saying it's not a masterpiece to we'll see, and that's enough for me. Okay?
part. All right, yeah, we will see.
'Cause it
We will
is,
see.
'cause it is.
And if they f up the ending, not a masterpiece. They've already
I don't
made.
think
They've
they're gonna
already
fuck it
made
up.
one accident, or they probably made others. But when what's her name was supposed to have a tattoo
Oh,
from
yeah,
like years ago,
Mikasa.
and
that
then she
was
didn't.
so
Can't be a
fucking
masterpiece
weird.
anymore, right?
That's not fair. That's not fair.
Come on now.
That's not
No, I know,
fair.
but that was a
That
mistake.
is a weird one. That was a mistake.
But they are great writers. Whoever is, the writers for Attack on Titan.
Promise Neverland.
I think their situation was a money thing, like
That-
what we went over earlier.
it is a money
I wanted to bring up Promised Neverland.
But
in
you
the
know what's
studios.
ironic? Promised Neverland was a niche cult following that I loved. I
Same,
loved Promised
same.
Neverland.
We all did, yeah.
And then the anime came out and it exploded.
Yeah.
And now the second season fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And I have this elitism within me where I'm like, I read the manga and I actually know why it's an amazing fucking masterpiece.
Yeah.
And it's just really tragic. Like, I felt that loss of like, man, if it didn't get popular,
Yeah.
maybe that would have happened. Like, maybe we would have gotten a real second season that was really good. But because it just such a short anime exploded, it kind of fucking failed due to a lot of different reasons.
That makes
but-
me think of a good part we should talk about though. Manga elitism. Manga
Oh,
reader
yeah.
elitism. Let's go there.
Clearly, she doesn't read manga.
I don't read
Yes.
manga,
I
okay?
do.
For a specific
Yeah.
reason. I'm not opposed to it. I plan on reading some manga. I do like graphic novels.
I support the manga elitism because that's the original shit. That's where it comes from.
Yes,
which is why
but
people
let
always
me-
go back to the
but
manga.
I roll my eyes. You have man, because there are some manga elitists that, of course, are like, "Well, I read the manga," and I'm like,
Yeah, that's
I
the
like to
first shit.
I like to consume my media with animation
Right.
and music.
You're
It makes
missing out.
my
You're
no, I'm
missing
not
out.
because it makes the emotional depth deeper.
For you, I guess.
Incorrect. As a manga reader,
Ah.
I understand that there is a difference between the mediums. One providing a dynamic
Mm-hmm,
visual to what you experience, while one allows you to take the time and the
Right.
juxtaposition of the images and words
Right.
to really understand it as a tapestry.
Mm-hmm,
Now, I will not deny that there are some anime that are better than the manga. One example, Fight Me, is Haiku. I think the anime is genuinely better than the manga because the manga, while it is very good, it does not capture the dynamic essence that the show really fucking nails. It 100% nails it. It's amazing. And I like watching Haiku more than I enjoy reading Haiku. However,
Right.
there are so many manga that are infinitely better than the anime. And
There
not
are.
because
Yeah.
not because the anime isn't doing its best. It can do a genuine adaptation. For
Yes.
example, Magi Into the Labyrinth, the manga is easily 100 times better, but not because any of the actual elements within the show are missing. It's just because when they animated it, the shocking facial expressions, the drawn out depth of depravity of the characters, where you have to take a second and be like, Jesus, they skip over in the
Right.
show. They don't skip over it as in any details are missing, but they don't give you the time and the weight that the manga does to
Yes.
appreciate the true
Yes.
depth of the
Yes.
character. The anime utterly fails, and that's not because of that one instance. That happens consistently.
Okay, and my point is, aside from that, I'm
Oh,
not.
aside from
I'm
that.
saying if you have a manga that is amazing, and then an adaptation that literally matches the quality storytelling wise of that manga, the anime adaptation will be more enjoyable because it's in motion and you
For
have
you.
and not only
For
not
you.
only that, but biologically when you listen to things like a soundtrack, it affects you on a very a biological level.
Some people just like to
Like
read,
music.
though.
Okay, so like when you're watching a movie, you're telling me that music doesn't affect it affects you.
Yeah, it
Marissa,
does.
some
Yeah, it
people just
does.
like to
So-
read, though.
That's fine. It's okay to read, but you can't tell me that consuming something in motion with things like color, which affects human beings, and sound that affects human beings, that your experience isn't more full than it is reading when it's done of the same quality.
Yeah, but understand that they're different mediums. And I know
Yes,
you're
of course.
arguing that they're different
I know
mediums.
that-
But the advantage that comics have that anime don't is that they have panels. I know that seems arbitrary, but paneling and the shape of your panels and the shape of the word bubbles and the expressions and different perspectives you have with each panel is actually vital to the genre. That if you want to get extremely creative with it, an anime just can't adapt
Right.
as effectively. They have to change how they represent that. Now, shonen anime rarely suffer from this because shonen anime have paneling that is pretty
Right.
by the book, by the numbers. But when you go to seinen anime, which are way more mature and they try to play with their genre way more effectively in way more complicated ways. Anime just doesn't fucking cut it sometimes. Devilman Crybaby did the best they could,
Yeah.
but still the visual and striking what is it called? Akatsuki? I think it might be Akatsuki. There's a manga dealing with spirals.
I know about that one.
Yeah.
Yes,
Junji
great.
Ito?
No, not that one.
That is great, by the way.
It is great.
great.
It is genuine. Oh, Uzumaki. That's what it's called.
Yeah, With
Uzumaki.
The horror one with the
The
circles.
horror one.
Yeah.
Anime could never
Yeah,
hold a
Uzumaki
candle
Uzumaki
to
is
it.
Junji Ito.
Even like
Maybe you're right.
So
I
I
don't
read
know.
manga myself. I'm currently reading. I'm catching up on Berserk. But the manga in Berserk is just so great. Like the artwork and
Yes.
stuff. Like,
See,
yeah.
that's a manga that I'm going to read because there is no adaptation that does it justice. I'm not saying, like, a lot of times animes don't do the manga justice, but I'm saying when it does, would you rather read a manga a second time or watch the anime the second time? If you feel like they're both on par, which one will you want to consume a second time?
That's why I disagree. It's like I really think it depends on what
Right.
both mediums are contributing. If I feel like the spatial paneling and the perspectives are really doing it for me to where there's a cleverness to how the word bubble, rather it's an art form. And even within the manga, how it's structured as a medium, it is art in and of itself.
I agree.
Anime is not the same in that regard. So if I feel like the artistic prowess of the manga, for example, actually this is a really good example, Bakuman. I will never, ever, ever recommend the anime. I really won't. Why? Not because it's not a faithful adaptation, not because it's good or bad. It is good and it is a faithful adaptation. But there's something absolutely hollow about an anime about writing a manga as opposed to a manga about writing a manga.
There's another one too.
Absolutely 100% a difference. Go ahead, Bryce.
I haven't read it, but I always hear that the Claymore manga was way better than the show.
It is.
Yeah, I still
Way
think
better. And I already
that
like-
when you have an animation that is on par with the manga, that I
You'll
think
choose
that
the anime?
I
I
think
really
it's
don't
not.
agree.
Well, I'm an anime only watcher, so
That's
that
what
makes
you're
sense.
speaking from a biased perspective because that's I'm like
Are
that's
you
just
guys
you.
not? Are you not speaking from a biased
just
perspective?
No, well, we
Not humorous.
like
Because
I'm pretty sure.
No, we're not because we watch and
But I've
read.
read graphic novels and I've read manga before, but I choose to stick to and because when I'm consuming media and an anime does it right because they do have artistic prowess in
do.
anime, like The Promised Neverland first season. There are some things that you, when put in motion, you'll never be able to get in manga, and I think that I thoroughly get more overall enjoyment when I'm watching an anime because the soundtrack is big, the color scheming is big, the camera angles are big, like the story, like they can be all the things that go wrong with anime, a lot that manga goes right in, anime can go right in as well. They're
Right.
just often not. So I'm saying when it does go right and they do a job on par, I would rather experience that through animation because I feel like it hits me harder.
Right.
And somebody else might not want to watch it. They might just want to read it though.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who would rather read it, but I think it's still a better form of media.
They don't
I
think
can't
that.
agree. You're arguing
don't
because
think
there are
that.
more outlets, but that's untrue. For example, a book versus a movie. I know it's not the same because manga actually does use
a good
pictures
example,
that
by the
anime
way.
uses.
Yeah.
But a book versus better example. A book versus an audio reading of that book.
Oh, okay,
Very
another good
similar.
example.
And to say it's like, oh, you listen to the audiobook, you're not really getting the full experience. While on some levels, that's not true and that's not fair. You are getting the experience. However, it is definitely a
is a good example.
different experience than if you were to just read it straight up, because how you relate with the abstract imagery that you generate within your own mind is fundamentally different from how another person's voice emphasizes certain emotional beats.
Yes.
It will always
So,
be different.
While the voice is more engaging to your auditory senses and you're still getting the information, it still loses some level of closure that you develop on your own as a reader. So with manga versus anime, the anime is telling you what is in between those panels. The anime is telling you explicitly what that action looks like, sounds like, feels like.
Yeah.
While in the manga, you get to. you get to have that closure. You get to decide what it sounds like.
Yeah,
you get
but
to decide
I don't-
how it
And
feels.
they
You think
build
that's
the
better
anime.
to be able to have your own? Oh, go ahead.
No, it's just a different.
It's
a
different. Yeah,
medium,
yeah.
I'm not
It
saying
can
it's
be
not
better, and
different.
it
I'm
can
not
be
saying
worse.
What I was gonna say is, what they do is, what they're supposed to be doing is they literally build the anime based off the manga. Obviously, some anime don't, but they're supposed to be animating based off the manga.
Yes, yes.
Which is the first original thing, which is why people always go to Did You Read the Manga? Because
Yeah,
that's
but
what that's what they're creating it from. It's coming from the manga.
Right.
But so we started this conversation about anime and manga, talking about manga elitism, and the reason I say that I think consuming anime is better than reading manga is because of, like I said, overall, I think it just offers more. Like, I understand that there's a difference. I understand the value in those differences, and I think that that's awesome. I just think that if I feel like I experience more when I'm watching an anime than when I'm
Right.
reading an anime or reading a graphic novel, then that shouldn't be shamed. Because
Nobody. Oh, I see. Yeah. So if somebody says, okay, I am this person. I fully acknowledge that I am this person. But if you're like, somebody's like, oh, I only watch anime, and I'm like, oh, you haven't read the manga, huh?
Yeah, see,
Oh, you're not as good as I am? Oh, that's interesting.
And that's why I agree with the opinion. I feel like consuming, because I have read manga, I feel like I get more when I watch an adaptation that is done on par with
sure.
the manga.
Okay, let's even argue.
works
Okay,
for
now I'm just going full in. Let's say that's true. That doesn't change the fact that it wasn't. Claymore isn't as good as the manga.
Yeah,
period.
I know. A lot of the times it's not,
done.
and that's the bed that I have to lay in. Okay, Devin, that's my sacrifice, because I'm just waiting for the savory
do
moment
both.
that I am going to do both, because The Promised Neverland season 2. Are you fucking me right now?
Garbage.
Like, I have to read the manga. Berserk, I have to read the manga.
Berserk is
But
great. It looks
I
so
always
beautiful.
give it an opportunity to be animated first. I will only read the manga of an anime that has failed.
But that's my point. You miss out on so many. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is something I pride myself on as a manga elitist. I can read a manga and I can tell you whether it's going to get an anime in the next 2 years. I can tell you.
Yeah.
And I'm good at it too. I've done it for every single one I've ever read. It's harder with webtoons because of the new surge with that. And they're fucking Jujutsu Kaisen. I read that when it came out initially, and I'm like, this is getting an anime. Period.
It was good, huh?
There's this manga series called Spy X Family.
I haven't heard of this
That's
one.
going to get a manga. Period. It is going to. I feel it in my bones. And my
You
point
mean
is,
get an animation?
it's going to get an anime.
Okay.
Period. It's so fucking good. The art's so I know it. I know it because that's what manga offers. It offers the quality that anime gets to be based off of, the closure, the elements, the emotion. So you miss out.
Literally,
Yeah,
Marissa,
no,
you miss out.
The animation is built off the manga.
Aside
So when you
from
say
all
that's better,
but
it's
have you seen, it makes me think of Made in Abyss. I'm like, the experience that I had while watching Made in Abyss, which was so atmospheric, right? The music, the art, the color, the motion, I would never experience that reading a manga. And it is significant. Soundtrack is so significant. It is coloring. It's so significant. It gives you bodily responses.
Of course it is. But
and so I feel like I would rather experience that first. And if I don't get to experience, but I like the concept of whatever it is I'm watching, and the anime doesn't do it for me, then yes, going back and going to read the manga will give me what I'm missing.
But in every anime, period, you miss something from what the manga offers, period.
Right.
And it's not because of the visual experience. It's not because of the art. It's because of the gaps in between. The gaps, less is more in some instances. For example, there's an anime, fuck you, called Kuroko no Basketball. Fuck you. She hates it. I don't care.
Don't hate it. I
it's
just
good.
haiku for life.
The manga is phenomenal and the anime is phenomenal. They're both, in my opinion, equal. They're very good. And it's not because one is a perfect adaptation of the other. It's because one is genuinely a good anime and one is genuinely a good manga. And I would read both over and over and not feel like it's redundant, because this offers such a depth of experience and intensity that anime never could. But anime offers a sense of dynamic structure, a sense of presence, a sense of artistic prowess in a different sense that manga just can't replicate. And that's why anime exists in the first place, because people desired that so strongly.
Right.
That is an example of like, it should be the same, right? Yeah. It's not. You miss out. So even when you do watch the anime, you miss out on the manga.
I understand.
Fight me.
I agree. I mean, I get where you're coming from, and I agree. They're like you guys have said, they're very different art forms, and one just offers things that the others can't. All I was saying was that I think what anime has to offer is better than what manga has to offer. Oh my God. When it's done with perfection, like Brother Henry.
We're going in circles with this now.
Well, we have to close up. Yeah. So we were talking about elitism, and all we really accomplished was showing that we're all
prime example of manga elitism, anime elitism.
Just general.
I will always be on the manga side of things.
I will be as well. So anime has something suffered.
Solo dolo.
Promise Neverland.
It's okay.
The actual art is way better than the manga. That is true. The first season, you really should just watch the anime instead of read it. It is very beautiful. Point is, elitism is a complicated thing that you're just going to experience either internally or externally. Right. But if it results in you actually hurting somebody's feelings or somebody being like, oh, well, I don't feel like my feelings are as valid, that's where the line is. Yeah. And I don't think any of us have tried to intentionally cross that line. And if we had, we wouldn't be okay with that. And we're not okay with you doing that. Don't fucking do it.
Don't be toxic.
I've never hurt someone's feelings on a conversation of anime.
Yeah, and like nobody's hurt my feelings when they're like, you're fucking stupid. I'm better than you because of my opinion. I'm like, yeah,
I watch anime better than you.
Yeah, I'm like, sure, fine. You feel that way. I love this, so whatever. Yeah. It's when it actually hurts people. Yeah. And I think we instinctively, like, I think everyone knows that, but it's really hard to find the line when you're in the moment.
Right. Yes,
So like, share, subscribe. Please support the channel, and we will see you next time.
Bye.